Well, here we go. Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at the 10 video game studios that we wish we didn't lose. Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Visceral Games.
What did it say, Isaac? What did it say to you, Isaac? Isaac, can you hear me?
Visceral Games was once an incredibly successful studio. Formerly known as EA Redwood Shores, Visceral was widely known for developing the Dead Space franchise. Unfortunately, with the release of Dead Space 3, the company's future started to look bleak. EA meddled with the game mid-development, demanding Visceral incorporate cooperative multiplayer and microtransactions. Even after the negative reception of that, Visceral Games still had an ace up its sleeve in the form of Star Wars Ragtag. Alas, that ace was never put in play. EA's executives cooked up a wild theory that single-player games were dying, thus deeming Star Wars Ragtag a fruitless endeavor in their eyes. And so, Visceral Games was shut down in October 2017. EA went on to publish Star Wars Battlefront 2 shortly after, and received massive backlash for the game's monetization. In 2019, the company published Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a single-player game that would wind up selling more than 10 million copies within 5 months after launch.
Look at this, a lightsaber.
Lionhead Studios. Even when founder Peter Molyneux was overpromising on the next Fable game, it was hard to hate on Lionhead Studios and their acclaimed RPG franchise. Fable did have a magic to it, and shape your adventure to become Albion's hero or villain. That's why so many were pained in 2016 when Microsoft decided to shut the studio down, right in the middle of Lionhead's next game, an online multiplayer spin-off of Fable. Many factors played into Lionhead's closure, from then recent flops like Fable The Journey for Kinect to the rapid decline in Xbox One sales. However, fans and former staff will point to how Microsoft forced the studio to work on Kinect before abandoning that, and then forcing Lionhead to develop a live service game. Fable Legends supposedly cost Microsoft roughly $75 million during its 4-year development. United Front Games.
We want the Red Poles, the lieutenants, all of them.
Do whatever it takes.
If you've heard of United Front Games, it's probably because somebody told you about how great of a game Sleeping Dogs is. What they may not have told you is that the studio that made it is no longer around. United Front Games was one of many studios that never got the attention and praise it deserved. From the highly customizable kart racer Mod Nation Racers to the captivating story of Sleeping Dogs, United Front Games was pumping out quality titles that very, very, very few people ever bought. In a desperate attempt to catch the wave of online gaming popularity in the mid-2010s, UFG pivoted to 2 online projects, both of which were met with middling to negative reception from players who participated in their respective betas. One of these games, Smash Plus Grab, would launch in 2016, but a couple of weeks later, UFG announced their closure. In other words, they had untapped potential that publishers allowed to wither away.
I'm a tank! Out of my way!
Incoming delivery drone!
LucasArts and Disney Interactive.
Hey, I look good in this, don't I?
Yeah, well, they say black is slimming.
Once upon a time, these 2 subsidiaries of media powerhouses dominated the gaming space. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, LucasArts was known for its point-and-click gems on PC, like Sam & Max and Grim Fandango, along with its vast assortment of Star Wars games. Disney Interactive, on the other hand, was known for publishing and/or co-developing various games based on Disney IP, ranging from tie-ins like A Bug's Life and Hercules to original works like Kingdom Hearts and Epic Mickey. Unfortunately, the decline in popularity of movie tie-ins came swiftly in the late 2000s and early 2010s. When Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012, the conglomerate chose to close down LucasArts' internal development teams, keeping only enough staff to handle legalities and licensing. Disney Interactive was allowed to stick around until Disney Infinity continuously failed to catch on, prompting Disney to close their gaming division in 2016. LucasArts continues to exist today only as a license holder, working with other gaming companies like Electronic Arts and Ubisoft for Star Wars games. Disney Interactive has been replaced with Disney Electronic Content, a successor of the company, but with a heavier focus on mobile and live service gaming. Free Radical Design.
Watch out!
Poor FRD. Born from former Rare developers who worked on GoldenEye 007 and Perfect Dark, Free Radical Design made a name for itself in the early 2000s for the Time Splitters games. Unfortunately, its last game, Haze, was such a colossal failure that it landed the studio in serious financial turmoil. It found a second life when it was sold to Crytek in 2009, but that didn't last long as Crytek failed to pay the staff on time, causing an internal war between the two. Free Radical Design would shut down in 2014 with almost all of its assets being sold to Koch Media. Now here's where things get super messed up. In 2018, Koch Media was bought by Embracer Group, who then announced in 2021 that they were resurrecting Free Radical Design and rehiring the staff to work on a new Time Splitters game. 2 years later, Embracer Group found itself in deep financial trouble as it placed too many bets on games like Saints Row that failed to rake in profits. In a desperate attempt to downsize and restructure, Embracer Group wound up shutting down Free Radical Design at the tail end of 2023. In other words, the studio died twice.
Time to get out of here.
Neversoft. Many will forever remember Neversoft as the geniuses behind Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and the short-lived Tony Hawk's Underground series. But what could have happened to cause such a revered studio to close? Well, after the success of Guitar Hero 3, Activision Blizzard pushed Neversoft to develop more and more Guitar Hero games to capitalize on the IP's success. Between 2008 and 2010, Neversoft belted out 5 whole Guitar Hero games, none of which were well liked by fans. The last Guitar Hero game, Warriors of Rock, miserably flopped in sales, which spelled doom for Neversoft. Activision would cease all efforts on the IP in 2010 and wound up having Neversoft absorbed into Infinity Ward. Basically, they became more fuel for the Call of Duty bonfire. Pandemic Studios.
They eat with their mouths. I think I'm going to be violently ill.
Whereas many studios on our list at least had opportunities to impress, Pandemic had absolutely zero control over its fate. Many of us fondly remember Pandemic for its work on Destroy All Humans, the original Star Wars Battlefront games, the Mercenaries games, and the often forgotten 2009 gem, The Saboteur. With such a stellar portfolio, how could this studio have perished so suddenly? Well, Electronic Arts happened. In 2007, EA bought VG Holding Corp., the parent company of both Pandemic Studios and BioWare. Shortly after, in February 2009, EA swiftly began cutting jobs, with Pandemic being almost completely wiped by the end of the year. Before they knew it, Pandemic consisted of just 35 staff members, all of which were soon absorbed into EA Los Angeles as they winded down on the Saboteur's development. Thankfully, much of the staff would bounce back and land jobs at other studios, some of which wound up working at Respawn Entertainment, another EA-owned game studio. Alpha Dream. Very rarely do you ever hear about Nintendo studios, let alone their external partners, getting shuttered. Alpha Dream was one of those incredibly rare cases, and it was a super upsetting one. Nintendo fans would know Alpha Dream as the Mario and Luigi studio, the brains behind Superstar Saga, Bowser's Inside Story, and, well, the rest of the franchise. Unfortunately, fatigue for the IP kicked in during the 2010s. Dream Team didn't interest the fans, and Paper Jam felt like a half-baked crossover with Paper Mario. Despite the exceptional remakes of Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story in 2017 and 2019 respectively, Alpha Dream's efforts were overshadowed by the Switch's explosive success during those years. Folks simply didn't want to play any more 3DS games. Alpha Dream soon found themselves filing for bankruptcy in late 2019, shortly after the release of their first Switch game, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, which they co-developed alongside Sega and numerous other studios. Japan Studio.
All right, we're here, just sitting in the car. I want you to show me if you can get far.
In early 2021, trouble was brewing within PlayStation. Unbeknownst to most folks, PlayStation's Japanese and Western branches were in a tumultuous war with each other, fighting for power over what direction to take the PlayStation brand. If you haven't noticed from the platform holders' exclusives, the Western branches won. As a result, Sony shut down Japan Studio, one of its original first-party studios going all the way back to the PS1 days. Hardcore PlayStation fans will remember Japan Studio as the geniuses behind Sony's more experimental titles like Parappa the Rapper, the Patapon series, the Loco Roco series, Ape Escape, The Legend of Dragoon, and the Gravity Rush games. Anyways, hope everybody's out there enjoying their cinematic open-world action RPGs.
No problem.
Tango Gameworks. The closure of Tango Gameworks will forever be remembered as one of Microsoft's greatest failures, right up there with mishandling Lionhead Studios. Founded by Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami, Tango Gameworks quickly found some financial security after being bought by Bethesda just months after beginning operations. Tango Gameworks soon made a name for itself with the Evil Within series, but when Microsoft acquired Bethesda in 2021, things started to look rocky. Ghostwire Tokyo failed to catch the public's attention in 2022, yet Hi-Fi Rush saw almost universal praise in 2023, winning a handful of awards in the process. Alas, it wasn't enough. Between the game's shadow drop and its immediate availability on Xbox Game Pass, one can safely assume Hi-Fi Rush failed to generate enough sales, as Microsoft only ever talked about how many people played the game, yet never stated how many copies were sold. Following Microsoft's monumental acquisition of Activision Blizzard King, Tango Gameworks was told to close its doors in May 2024. President of Xbox Sarah Bond states this was to consolidate and to, quote, invest more deeply in our portfolio of games and new IP, end quote. Yet they chose to close a studio that delivered a new IP and won several awards in the process. Make it make sense, please. Which game studio do you miss the most? And did it make our list? Share the love for these studios down in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays for more great videos every day.
Minute.